Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In. We are brought to you by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike gear. By Pure and Clean Sports, by Resolite, the mat company, and by Jocko Fuel. We appreciate all those guys. Joined today by the boys, Mark Ostrander, Grant Turner. GT, happy belated. Happy 21 plus X. We'll just say that. You're legal to consume any beverages anybody might have bought for you for your birthday. And I saw online, and you mentioned the Grandview Golf Tournament looked like it was a huge success. I saw some custom Nike, saw a bunch of cool things. Tell us a little bit about that and any of the PG stories you're allowed to discuss about your birthday.
No, it was great. Luckily, my birthday kind of fell on the same weekend as our Grandview Wrestling Golf outing, so we had some alumni come back into town for that event, and then get to spend some time at the golf outing. It's always a good fundraiser for the program. We had some really awesome people come and give out some big, kind of silent auction items and things of that nature. So it was really great to get everyone kind of underneath the roof as you kind of kick off the season and whatnot. So really, really good weekend. Was definitely very tired after having thousands of conversations with all of the alumni that came back, which was great. So all in all, really great experience, and excited for a new season with those guys.
Well, as someone who is significantly older than you, when Mark and I talked about doing better on the international side of things, it was a complete no-brainer to have you. And it's, I think, a nice cheat code for us to get to talk to you at least 52 times a year. So we appreciate you doing this with us, and you add a ton. And so we should say publicly happy birthday.
Thank you, boys. Thank you.
Mark?
Yes, David. I'm right here.
Okay.
I look good today, don't I, David?
Yeah.
Thank you. Just wanted to check that out.
You do look good.
I have to say it because nobody else will.
Mark, you look better and better every week.
Yeah, right.
You're the Benjamin Button of our podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, you mentioned this right before we went on the air. Let's talk about Iowa. Sonny Amato decommits. He's 3-1-1. I think that's the wrong order. I think he plays 1-3-1 in New Jersey. He was a big commit. Various stories coming out about the why. Some people are the sky is falling. Some people are, kids verbal, and then they still keep getting recruited, which is a definite true thing. And, maybe more money comes to them, maybe just whatever. So you're in Iowa. You have for most of your life, your blood type has been black and gold. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, there's something going on. I'm not sure what it is. I know they had camps and workouts, and I don't think he showed up for any of them. And so I think from everything I'm hearing, I don't know how much of it's true, that Tom just said, hey, you're not serious about coming here. We're taking your scholarship away. So he decommitted, and he's going to go somewhere else. So that opens up a spot for Iowa to bring in somebody else. And with the 30-man cap, I think that's important that, sometimes you get a kid that maybe, going in his junior year and they commit and you've put money aside for them and you're thinking this is going to be a good fit for us. And then, it's a time during the year, during the summer, where the kids that want to go there come in, they train, they get better. They help with the camps. They get paid to do the camps. And if you want to go out and hang out with your friends and do other things, that there's no reason a school can't take their scholarship back and say, you're not the person we thought you were. We thought you were going to, all about wrestling. You're going to be here and things like that. I'm not sure what happened, but Tom's running a business. And if you're going to hire somebody to be part of your business and a big part of it, when you only have 30 people working for you, basically, and you don't want to show up and do the extra things, they have the right to do that. If we're going to pay these kids, they're employees, basically, of the universities, of the programs that they're involved in. If they're going to give that kind of money out and you don't want to show up and do anything, then I have no problems with schools taking back their money.
GT Mark said a lot there that was really well said, in my opinion. And he said something that I was going to say until he said it, which is, it feels more and more like this is becoming an employer-employee relationship. And I'd like to step back from Iowa and Sonny Amato, because none of us really know what happened, and there's two sides that are out there. But GT, what Mark said that is unequivocally true, is more so than ever and more public than ever, is, and it's your birthday, but I'm older than you, so you're the athlete and I recruited you, and I'm paying you. And I'm not just paying you tuition, room, board, books. I'm paying you money out of revenue share, or I shouldn't be legally, but I'm helping you get NIL money. And this gets really sketchy because a lot of this stuff isn't written up, but I'm paying you. And then what are the demands on that? And what are the demands on a kid who's a high school junior who lives more than 250 miles away? That's the RTC rule. Everybody's doing something that's a little in the gray, or, in the dark gray. How does this all come out? And if there's ever a slow week, I had to talk with one of the smartest guys I know, and he's like, listen, these guys should get, I'm going to say this and get your thoughts, GT. He goes, this is about to go the other way. And I think he's right. He goes, as soon as NCAA basketball, or the basketball schools, figure out how to get out of the NCAA tournament, it's going to go, and football goes separate. He goes, all the non-revenue sports are going to be what the NCAA governs. He goes, and there's not going to be any more money except the illegal booster money. He goes, so these guys need to make all the money they can now. And it was sort of the equivalent of back when, like, Sam Bradford was the #1 draft pick in the NFL, and he literally became the highest paid player instantly without ever having taken even a preseason snap. So your thoughts on Mark's comments? Maybe I don't, it's not that I don't care. I don't know that we need to talk anymore about Sonny Amato in Iowa. Like, it is what it is. He's going to end up going somewhere else. And like Mark said, Iowa's got another slot. But your thoughts, like, on the bigger picture of it?
Well, I think one of the things that is very interesting about where college athletics are when it comes to even like just this scenario with the University of Iowa is there's so many different reasons for probably decommitting from a location or institution. And to Mark's point is, even if you are actually at the university versus your commitment to the university, like what were the agreeables when you are committed to coming to school here?
Or the terms of the contract? Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, well, if you're actually on campus and you're representing the University of Iowa as a University of Iowa student and or RTC athlete or whoever it is that you're representing that said place, there's probably stuff that comes with those contracts and obligations. Now, when it comes to like commits and like decommitting, it's like, well, decommitments happen all the time.
Yeah.
And this is not anything new to the sport of wrestling. It just so happens that like when it's at the University of Iowa, it becomes, and it's a very, very talented high-level recruit, like that becomes somebody that's back on the market. It's front page news. So I think for whatever reasons that the gentleman is wanting to decommit from Iowa, or however Tom maybe felt about what's going on there, I think that's kind of their perspective. And once again, I think that there's tons of reasons to decommit. There's tons of reason to maybe potentially pull the offer, and happens more than people think. So I think
the funny thing is this: we're making some assumptions. All we know is he's not going to go to Iowa, which he could still go because he's a senior in high school, and we're being told that Tom pulled an offer. We don't even know if that's true. Maybe the kid just said, I don't want to go there anymore. Maybe I want to be closer to home. There's a million things, but I think it does open an interesting can of worms. And Mark, you brought something else up, which is absolutely right, which is the 30-person roster. And it's a really good segue because Oklahoma State posted the roster yesterday. Like a coach tweeted it to me or forwarded the tweet and was like, I count 33.
I think there's other places that are going to carry it over the 30-man roster, I think, based off of kind of other things that are posted too, because I don't necessarily know if it's like all 30 or nothing. I haven't heard any specific rulings on that yet, David.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, we don't know if that's a hard rule, because if it is a hard rule, then kids are going to have to literally not be on the team, and there's no portal. The portal's not open right now, so I think that's fascinating. A couple things that came out of Oklahoma State, we didn't talk about it last week, but they have announced that they're partnering with the Army WCAP program. And that's traditionally been a Greco program. GT, would you agree with that?
I would say probably the most exposure that the WCAP has had is on the Greco side, but there has been some really good men's freestyle athletes through the WCAP program over the years,
and women's freestyle for sure.
And women's freestyle for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because Oklahoma State's doing a great job of helping these kids and athletes build their brand. And there's going to be government money helping these kids, these athletes be there. So, Mark, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge anytime you can combine something that brings in more faces, more notoriety to your RTC. And David Taylor knows exactly what he's doing. I mean, he's been around one of the best for years and years with Cal and what they've done with their program. And it's, you know, he uses a lot of that, what he's learned, and he's doing different ways, variations of it. But I think it's great for Oklahoma State University to be able to join something like that and put it together and make their RTC. And that's going to bring women in. It's going to help a little bit with the Greco. So they're going to get some guys that want to do both, and great freestyle wrestlers also. So, you know, like Wax, who's only a sophomore, you know, and won the worlds in Greco at
Place 1-2.
Yeah. So, I mean, a guy can go train in both styles. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going there. I'm just saying it's another avenue that these kids can look at.
Yeah. And it's a lot of 250 miles and all this other stuff. But yeah. It's a very interesting specific human being you picked.
I just wanted to find somebody that does both Greco and freestyle and is good at both. So that's kind of why I said it.
We got a lot of kids that are good at freestyle, that are good in America domestically, that would check the box. And I think, you know, unless they add to the staff, there's not a ton of guys in Stillwater that are high-level Greco guys right now. So it'd be interesting to see.
Agreed. But we have very few that are world-class in both styles. I mean, that doesn't happen all that often.
They got a guy down there. His name's Sam Hazewinkle, who lives in the state of Oklahoma.
But would you agree with that, Grant, that, I mean, it's pretty rare to see a guy U17s win Greco and play second in freestyle for the United States?
I think if you're at that international level, and once again, I don't know enough about the U17 and U20 worlds, like where it's been like, hey, this guy is this good at this style and this good at this style, it would be a really good deep dive to kind of see who that would be. I mean, making the world finals in both styles is pretty legit. And I think
awesome. Yeah.
It's I would probably have to go back to, like, once again, this is my old brain, is like Adam Kuhn age group stuff, or, you know, things like that, where it's, I just don't know. I just don't know enough about it. But, like, to your point, someone that's good at both styles getting an opportunity to be a part of those elite level conversations at, you know, U20, U23 and senior level, it's a really good benefit for those athletes.
On the next episode of Weighing In, Grant Turner and his old brain.
Well, I'm gonna watch that one. That's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's a dark and scary place.
Probably
dark and scary.
Hour-long podcast, so that
there you go. Minimum, yeah. So this was kind of a sneaky announcement. What we're talking about next, but Otoguro GT commits to the Stanford or the Cardinal RTC for 2 years. So that's, I mean, basically through the Olympics. Is that a fair way to say that?
I believe so. Yeah.
And he's one of my favorite wrestlers to watch. And I'll be honest, like there's way more of the Jason Bryants and Kyle Klingmans of the world that can tell you where everybody's placed and stuff like that. But Otoguro is a guy that his style and his approach to wrestling is just, I'm a huge fan, and my dad's a huge fan. And it's something that's very appealing. And he wrestles a different style than the traditional American style. This is like a massive get for Stanford. And Grant, you'll elaborate on that. But like, I just think of like Aiden Valencia, because they're like right around the same, literally competition rise, like right around the same weight. Like Aiden Valencia's life got a lot better. I mean, he can lose a lot more takedowns in practice, but man, is he going to get better. And that 149 weight class is going to be bonkers this year, most likely. So your thoughts on Otoguro?
I mean, he's a beast. He's a world champion. He's an Olympic champion. I think he's somebody that, once again, is still kind of in his prime too. So he's able to continue to wrestle and be with athletes on the mat and give them really good looks. So I think, being able to be a part of the Stanford, program, Stanford RTC, be able to, pass that knowledge down to an American system coming from a different system and just a different perspective is going to be really great for a lot of those athletes. And I think also anytime that you can have an Olympic champion in your wrestling room is just a great perspective, just from the standpoint of like, anything, mental preparation, technique, nutrition, whatever it may be. It's just a little bit of observation from one guy to another. It's going to be really great for those college athletes to be around somebody like that, that's at super high level while they're still able to kind of show you the nuts and bolts of things actually in the room. So huge shout out to the Stanford coaching staff and the Stanford RTC, the California RTC, and getting him here. And then, for somebody like Aiden Valencia, like that's a really good, a tool to use to soak up a lot of that knowledge from an Olympic champion.
Our sport's interesting because it feels like more so than most sports, to have credibility to coach, you have to have been good at the sport. And like, I live in St. Louis, and like Tony La Russa was a great baseball manager. And he wasn't a good baseball player. Like Bill Belichick wasn't a good he probably wasn't a good baseball player either, but he wasn't a good football player. Like Nick Saban was not. And then you look at certain sports like basketball, where guys like Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson tried to coach, and it didn't go well. Our sport, it feels like we've decided as a whole that if you can do it, you have more credibility than guys that didn't do it. And those guys get really good jobs because, Kale and David and John Smith and Tom Brands and all these guys, like to the general public, you're like, man, Tom Ryan was a great wrestler. Like, he was a national runner-up. And then you compare his wrestling credentials alone, just wrestling credentials, to those guys. And Tom Ryan's awesome to talk to. Kevin Dresser's awesome to talk to. But if you stack their credentials up versus those other guys, they're not equal. But it doesn't mean, like Pat Popolizio, I don't think was ever Division I All-American. He's coaching national champions. So it's an interesting dichotomy. But as an assistant coach, especially, or an RTC athlete, which is originally how all this money was getting, how they were recruiting kids, are like, well, hey, we can't give you the money, but we're going to give all these other guys the money, and you're going to get better that way. So it feels like kind of an old school throwback. Mark, I don't know how much you watch Otoguro, but like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of it. But anytime you can bring in a top-notch caliber athlete, just like Penn State brought in Ono, world champ U20. It's not an Olympic champion like this guy that they brought in at Stanford. So, I mean, just to have him in the room for 2 years and have the kids train with him and learn the little nuances of what they do. And if you pick up kind of like an old coaching saying is that we're going to show you and teach you all this stuff, but you got to pick what's comfortable for you and what you can do. You're not going to do it all. And I don't want you to try to do it all but find something that you like and then work on it and spend time on it and see if that helps add into the other things that you're good at. And so, yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. A couple of other notes here. One, Patty Gallagher committed to Oklahoma University. Tom Ryan referenced it in his interview from NWCA National Convention. OU is like transfer central, man. They're going to probably start like 7 transfers this year. It's an interesting thing culture wise because it's hard to bring guys through. Like I think Grandview is like the opposite. GT. Like I saw the graphic of the Nick Mitchell era. Is that a fair way to describe that? Like number of team points, number of All-Americans, number of qualifiers, number of national champions, number of team trophies, number of dual meet championships, all this stuff. And I'm lucky enough to be friendly with Nick, and he's been on the pod, and you're obviously friends with him and part of the staff. And culture I think culture probably is the number one thing you guys would say. Like, listen, if they're not a good fit for the culture, they're not going to be here. Like we built truly a championship culture. I'm happy for a guy like Patty Gallagher because Ohio State's got a logjam in the middle. It'll be interesting to see where he shakes out. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that if they were not. GT, we were talking about this off the air. I had no idea, and I don't know why I didn't understand this or think about it, but RTCs are allowed to pay high school guys to wrestle, to come to the RTC. And that opens up like a whole nother revenue stream and where the rich can get richer. Have you, I don't know if you've thought about this, but it's a very, I don't know, like your thoughts on this. Like, I'm guessing you were probably smarter about this than me. So.
Well, I think one of the things about, I would say even like the ins and outs of some of the, I would say even like the RTC or Olympic development programs and like NIL and like what does it look like for even high schools now is that there's so much information that probably slips through the cracks on how things are done. And once again, other places may do it differently. But I think it's interesting from the standpoint of like, how do you benefit from having, that Olympic development RTC model? We just got done with like the NWCA coaches convention where I think there were some coaches that would be able to kind of speak on programs and how do you build it and like kind of that mentorship academy that I think that they do out there for, some beginning coaches to get around other guys that are discussing how they do their programs. And I think the RTC model, I think is still kind of I think there's a lot of things that people can learn about the RTCs and how does that all work? Because it's very different in wrestling than it is other sports. And I think taking that extra time to understand what you can and can't do with RTCs is super important to the development of a program. You can see where there's really good clubs and RTCs that are located close or nearby to collegiate colleges or high schools where you're seeing a lot more growth in those athletes. So there's a lot to that conversation. But I think people that are realizing what benefits that they can provide with that RTC is clear for specific locations in the country.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's layered and but I just hadn't thought about it. But like they're always going to find ways to pay kids. I guess that's kind of it. Mark, anything else?
No, it just reminds me of when Drake Ayala was in Fort Dodge in high school, and he used to go work out with the Iowa State RTC for probably a year or so. And I know they recruited him real hard. And then when he made his decision that he was going to go to the University of Iowa, pretty much shut the doors of him working out with the Iowa State RTC. It's just a place for these kids because they are getting so talented and they come from these clubs that are doing a phenomenal job. I think the clubs have made wrestling what it is today, getting top-notch coaches, training with these guys and bringing in all the great talent within that area. And they're working out 2 or 3 times a week, getting a different look compared to a high school wrestling room. There's still rules set up. You can't pay a kid if, they're not within 200 miles of the RTC.
250.
So there are still rules involved. So, but I have no problems with it. I really don't. If we're going to pay college athletes, to go to college and wrestle for you, and you live within 250 miles and they want you in there earlier, and it's a way to get them in their training with the RTC and, their coaching staffs, I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah. I just hadn't thought about it, right? Like I was thinking about incentives and, like the 250 thing is so random and it seems weird. Like if you're generally just traveling across the country and like, I don't know, like if I live in Missouri and I'm going to go see the Liberty Bell and I'm not allowed to train at an RTC in the Philadelphia area, that seems absurd to me. But I also understand why, then people are going to facilitate it and color in the gray and play around the rules and all kinds of stuff like that. All right. GT will never ask me to do this, but we have some awesome Nike news. A couple things. Number one, GT, what is the nickname for the new colorway for the Tawas? Do we have one yet? The pink and greens, I guess,
there's no specific, I would say colorway choice for verbiage, but I've seen a whole bunch of people on social media basically calling it the Patrick, which is from a SpongeBob cartoon, which is awesome. And then I saw some other people, I think the generation of having the Tawa, it was built for the Olympics in Japan. So there's on the outsole, there's a bit of technology there where it's the traction units are looking like a Japanese sand table where it looks where it's that way. And then on the other side of the outsole is the palm print of a Japanese gecko. So there's some things like that, but nothing specific to that pink and green colorway. We haven't necessarily come up with a cool name for it, but I think it's been a huge hit. I think it's resonated well with the wrestling world. So excited to see what that looks like.
They're hot, bro. A lot of people are posting. I saw some of the literal, probably professional ads, for lack of a better phrase, some of the photos you did with certain athletes, and they look great. I would imagine they're going to play very well with both genders too. They feel like a kind of color that, a lot of young ladies in wrestling would probably be drawn to. And it's a very similar colorway you have to the Inflict 4. Is that correct?
Yep. Just same colorway, but just 2 different models.
Yeah. So, and then I've been getting emails on these Wayne Wells, I guess, documentary, 3 episodes of them. And I can't tell people enough how much they should watch this. I know at the end there's something coming here in terms of a Nike product, but Wayne Wells is one of these dudes that has gone really under the radar in terms of appreciation, and probably a lot of it is just, it was a long time ago and there's no media, probably hard to even find matches. But in a preview, when you see Mark, when you see a John Smith talking about Wayne Wells and how he got to meet him and touch the gold medal and that kind of thing, that's some legendary stuff.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what Nike does and what they bring out, and it should be interesting. It's great that Nike's going back to, back in the day when, a lot of these people are overlooked, and what they did for the sport and how they got, wrestling's basically in the United States with an imprint of what they were able to do, and then people that have followed since then. So that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I push this back to the end, but there is a new World Team Trials qualification process. And it came out, and we're just going to focus on men's freestyle, and then on another episode we could talk about the differences. But I'm going to kind of go 50,000-foot view. GT, please fact check me on any of this. Let's start with a couple things that I'm positive are true. 16 athletes are allowed to be in an Olympic bracket, correct?
Yes.
Okay, which is very different from the World Championships. Okay, like the World Championships, if your country's you can't have more than one entry per country, but pretty much every country can enter somebody, minus political stuff. Is that also correct?
Yeah, you have to like go to like, I think you're continental in order to even be allowed to go to the World Championships. There's some stuff there, but yes, one person per country and one person like enters that.
Okay. The next thing is this, to help people understand. In the previous year at the Olympics, the top 5 athletes from the 27 World Championships qualified for the Olympic Games, correct?
Previously, yes.
Okay, and so what that means is, like, if Mark and I both lost in the match to get into 3rd, we would have to wrestle off for 5th. Okay, they have changed that from 5 to 4. So there's now an extra qualifier, okay, that is not coming out of the World Championships, which we're going to assign later. The next 8 qualifiers come from the Continentals. And so what people need to understand is right now there are 4 slots an American can qualify for: 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th at the World Championships. And Joe Russell helped me yesterday, and it's not technically 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. It's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 3rd, because there's 2 bronze medals. Okay. In the Continentals, our Continental is the Pan American Games or Championships, and you have to take 1st or 2nd. But there's 3 other Continentals, so now we're down to, there's 12 spots so far we've named, and an American can make 6 of those. GT, would you agree with that? Like 4 at the World Championships, 2 at Pan Ams. Okay. The next one is the last chance tournament, and I might not be explaining this in the right order, but I talked to Joe Russell and he said this explanation actually makes sense. So I'm just going to say what me and him talked about. What he said was, and I didn't know this, that you can't go to that if you're from a country that's already qualified anybody for the Olympics. So what they're trying to do is create country diversity. So he said, America's not going to get anybody through that process. So now there's 13 spots and America can only get 6 of them. You have to be one of those 6. And the last 3 are from the ranking series. And that's a new thing, right, Grant?
Yes, that's a new way to qualify.
And so an American can get through there. So it's very important to just understand there's 16 slots and an American can only get through in 9 of them. Which then if you go back to the categories, which is Worlds, Pans, ranking series. Worlds are 4, Pans are 2, ranking series is 3. It then becomes very important for a country to know who their rep is earlier in the process so that they can go score as many points as possible in the ranking series. Because when this process came out, the headline was no more Final X, which is true. Mark, you and I discussed this, but this was not like we dislike Final X. It's a timing issue. They're trying to figure out who our rep is sooner so that person can go get ranking points. Okay. The next part, which we're going to talk about, and I'll pull it up here. Okay, so if people are watching this, this is the 2027 World Team Trials qualification and procedures for the Olympic weights. And again, this is men's freestyle, but there's a very similar 2-page document for women's freestyle and greco. The World Team Trials tournament will now be essentially the US Open, which is April 19th to 25th of 2027. The 6 Olympic weights are 57, 65, 74, 86, 97, 125, all kilograms. Wrestlers who meet the following criteria will qualify for the World Team Trials Tournament. And there is a list of A through N, which is 14. And then a couple of these are multiple, like G is the top 7 from last year's US Open. And then NCAA's top 3. And Grant, I'm sure when I say this, I'm almost positive I'm right. There's overlap in these, right? Like somebody can have taken 7th at the US Open and also, been a top 3 guy at the NCAAs. Is that a fair sentence?
Yes.
Okay. So the maximum number of people here is pretty high, but it'll be somewhat different in terms of overlap. And there's also a last chance qualifier, and you can't go in and do the old steal a spot, which we've talked about in the past. So then the automatic berth part, and I want to read this because it's very important. Automatic berth to the World Team Trial Finals. Athletes who medaled at the 2026 Senior Men's World Freestyle Championships at the weight being contested will receive an automatic berth to the 2027 World Team Trials Best of 3 series at the same weight category. Athletes who receive automatic berth for the World Team Trials Championship in a best of Let me read this sentence. Athletes who receive automatic berth will face the World Team Trials Tournament champion in the best of 3 series for the 2027 spot. And then they tell you by when you have to accept that. And there's things about injuries and delays and all that kind of stuff. So, and then there's a scenario where if the 2027 world member is incapacitated. So I talked to Joe about this, and this is essentially the method that Kyle Dake hated, Grant and Mark, where he would have to go through the tournament and then, Burroughs just got in some warm-up match, like a good warm-up, and got to wrestle him fresh. We are back now to that procedure. Is that how I've talked to multiple people? I just want to make sure that's how you guys read this.
The way that I am reading it, it very much looks like the world team spot is then done at like the US Open, quote unquote, tournament, where you're going to have to go through the mini tournament and then you're going to wrestle the previous world medalist in a best 2 out of 3 that day.
Yeah, that's right. I confirmed that with Joe. So just to give people some specificity, 57, our world championship rep is Spencer Lee. 65 is TBD, Real Woods or Bo Bassett. 74 is James Green. 86, Kyle Dake. 97, Kyle Snyder. 125, Wyatt Hendrickson. So if any of these 6 guys medal, they get a gigantic advantage, Mark. And what is interesting in it not being mentioned is if you medaled at the non-Olympic weight, it does not look like there's any extra consideration. Mark?
Yeah, I don't see that part in there.
It's not in there. It's not in there.
So
I'm saying like that's pretty massive.
Yeah, because they were going to the semis, sitting till the semis, and then they got put in the bracket.
That was of the Olympic trials, yeah. Now this is just for the 2027 team. That could still exist in 2028.
Okay.
But it's important, like, Mark, you laugh at me a little bit. I mean, I say tongue in cheek, like the minute after the Olympics are over, I'm like, well, who's in a good position for 2025 and then up to 28? But it's a lot closer now. The horizon is a much shorter path.
Yep.
Another thing to point out here is there was a lot of rumblings that the Olympic trials were going to be in December, and Joe said that was probably not going to be the case, that there was a lot of pushback. It'd be in the middle of college season, especially for men's and women's freestyle. Probably has less of an impact in Greco. So this is massive. And GT, this is almost the opposite of like 2 or 3 years ago. You would know the year better than me, where like there was a US Open, and then there was another tournament, and then there was a last chance tournament, and then there was a final tournament, and then there was Final X, and there was all these events. And now there's like one.
Well, not necessarily. This is only the World Team Trials for Olympic weight classes. So, in order to make this world team, in previous years, there was all of these tournaments like you were just describing. But in this document, it has nothing to do. I haven't seen anything that goes to the non-Olympic weight classes.
Correct.
So let's say, for instance, Dake has I won't use him. I'll use Levi Haynes. Levi Haynes has a bad tournament because he wanted to maybe try his luck at a different weight class. He doesn't make the world team at said Olympic weight class, either at 74 or 86. But he's wrestling 79 kilos here in Kazakhstan in 2026. What is his way, or anybody that doesn't do well at the Olympic weight classes, what happens to the non-Olympic weight classes that still need to be decided for 2027 in the US? And then does that have any impact on the Olympic trials process, which it had in the previous years?
Right.
Had an implication if you were like a world medalist at a non-Olympic weight class, is that then going away? And then how does the Olympic trials process, does it still benefit a non-Olympic world champion or medalist in April of 2028 heading into the Olympics?
What you're saying is dead on correct. And so another way I think of saying the same thing is this: USA Wrestling is going to have to declare before this tournament what the Olympic trials process is going to be. Because take your Levi Haynes example, he's going to go down or up in 2028. Okay, let's just use that as an example. Or like Marcus Blaze, okay? Like Marcus Blaze is most likely going up. I don't see any way in the world he makes 57 kilograms, okay? So he's going to do whatever he's going to do here in the 26 Worlds in Kazakhstan. And now what happens? Like, did he medal? If he medaled, it looks like that gives you no impact on being in this bracket at, say, 65 kilos in the 27 World Team Trials. And so then it's like, but does USA Wrestling say, but we want to be good at the non-Olympic weight, so if you make our team in 27 and medal, you'll be in the bracket till the semis. Am I saying essentially, Grant, what you're saying in a different way?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying. I was just trying to add into the trial, like the different tournament process that you had mentioned, that like there will be extra tournaments, but we don't know how that, it hasn't been discussed yet. So I was basically stating that like the world team is not all the way complete. Your Olympic weight classes are complete in April.
Yes. There's 10 weights and 6 are Olympic and 4 are non-Olympic, just for people to understand. And that's 61, 70, 79,
92.
and 92.
For men's freestyle specifically that we're discussing, because it's the same thing for all of the other ones as well. Because even if you look at, could you pull up the PDF for Greco? Because Greco has been on this path already for this Olympic quad where their entire team is selected in April. If they're going to do the exact same thing or not, because I think that what they're trying to do is the exact same thing in Greco, is that they want their Olympic weight classes bolstered as well. So I think you're going to see the same thing, is that there'll be a non-Olympic World Team Trials event that will happen later in the summer in 27 to determine those other weight classes, but they want to get out in front of the Olympic weight classes.
Yeah. I mean, a quick glance, some of the criteria are identical. Okay. But they've added like an NAIA top 2. They've added the Division 2 top 3. They've added Division 3 top 2. So there's basically down to letter P in Greco, and down the letter N in freestyle. Mark, I want to get you in here. Thoughts on any and all of this?
Yeah, and I this is really confusing to me. So being the oldest here of this group, trying to figure out this is like trying to figure out algebra when I was in high school. It just didn't happen. So, you know, I agree with what you guys are saying to the point where this really doesn't tell me what's going to happen with the non-Olympic weights, like Grant was saying, and whether or not come 2028 when they have to select a team and they have the tournament, to those guys that place in the non-Olympic weights, when they go up to their Olympic weights, do they decide they're going to put them in the semis like they have in the past, which I think is fair. They're a world champion. It just wasn't at the Olympic weights. So, but then you asked me to comment on Greco. I have no idea. I mean, we're getting Division II and NAIA guys in there, which you don't have in freestyle. So just to probably bring more people in to the hunt. And I mean, I know, Grant, you guys have coached some world-class Olympic Greco guys at Grandview that transferred over after they were in the Olympic process, you know, in Greco, and transferred over to the collegiate style of wrestling again. So it's great. The more opportunity for young men to compete for the United States of America, I'm all for it.
Yeah, let's try to do a 50,000-foot summary, okay? Number one, they're doing this process is changing because of the importance of the ranking series in the Olympic qualification process. GT, I have that right, correct?
Yeah, all of this is based off of those extra 3 spots. So if we don't do well at Worlds and we don't do well at Pan Ams, there's still an ability to get to the Olympic Games, because more than likely the United States is going to medal at Worlds, which then takes us out of the equation for the last chance qualifier turn, like basically piece of the puzzle. So in order to get anybody else into the tournament, they're going to have to do well at the ranking series events, which are then going to be held in order to try to qualify those weight classes for the Olympic Games. So there's probably a lot of method to the madness when it comes to what USA Wrestling is trying to do to try to have the best showing at the LA Games and then have the best representation on U.S. soil in Las Vegas in 27 in order to try to qualify as many people as you possibly can at the first opportunity to get the first 4 spots.
Yeah. The other thing, just I saw somebody post this is not like World Cup soccer where in the past the host country was automatically in. Okay. Like that's an important thing to understand. Like, you know, nobody from America is automatically grandfathered into the Olympic bracket because it's in the United States.
And just so I understand, David, could you clarify this for me?
I'll try.
On the ranking series, and Grant, you probably know this better than David and I because you're more into the international scene. Let's use this past year where I'm going to use an Iowa guy, DeSanto, went and wrestled. He won 1 ranking series, placed in another ranking series. So would that qualify him for the Worlds in this scenario?
It would help him if you are correct. So like with, let's say AD goes to all these UWW ranking series. Now, once again, this will all be based off of USA Wrestling's top 3 guys, so that you can add those guys to that. So he would have to make national team in order to try to even go to these ranking series, because you're going to have to do it underneath the American flag in order to qualify. So using last year's example, like AD goes over there and he gets a whole bunch of points, and he's one of the top 3 guys in the world at the UWW rankings. That would help him if he didn't do well at Worlds and didn't qualify through Pan Ams, that he would have a lot more points in order to try to qualify for the Olympic Games. Okay. So it's hugely beneficial.
Not the country. Correct?
That's the problem that this is the problem that wrestling faces at the Olympic level, is it is individual and it is also a country issue. So not only are we trying to like get as many countries in as possible, but also individuals that represent those countries are trying to fight for themselves in the UWW ranking series point battle, which is that's the tough part as wrestling fans. We all know who's really good, right? So having an individual that's for a country that's already qualified somebody, you're trying really hard to like make yourself one of those top 3 guys in the point systems, but you're also like based off of your country. If your country is already qualified, then it doesn't matter how many points you have, unless you get to a point where you're one of those last 3 UWW ranking series slots for the Olympics.
Well, I want to make sure I got this right because, David, you said it earlier. The last chance tournament is only for the countries that have not qualified anybody for the Olympics at any weight?
That's correct.
Or at that weight. Okay, so let's go back to 2024, the Olympics. Spencer Lee, Zane Rutherford both had to go through the last chance to qualify for the Olympics.
They wouldn't have been allowed to.
And they would not have been allowed to because the United States had already qualified.
Yeah.
So then now they're adding the ranking series in there. So if they have top 3 points in the ranking series, one of the top 3 guys, they would qualify through that system now instead of through the last chance.
Yes. Let me add something that Joe said. And I'm pretty sure I understood this. I mean, I'll get it corrected, but it's if the country qualified anybody. So if Kennedy Blades qualifies for the Olympics, Spencer Lee and Zane Rutherford would not have been allowed to go to last chance. Okay. To go back to the DeSanto conversation, GT said it very well. And this is super convoluted. So people are following along. It's not simple. I think explaining the 16 slots and how they got reallocated is
hard enough.
Not, yeah, but that's kind of the easiest part of it. Okay. But say DeSanto is on the national team because GT said that. Like, let's say it right now, and I don't know that he's the 3rd guy, but that it's Blaze, Forrest, DeSanto. Okay,
I think he is number 3, David, because he was supposed
that's
to.
Fine. Okay, that's fine. It's irrelevant for what I'm about to say. But if he's 3rd, we're going to make him 3rd, whether he is or not.
Okay.
He goes and gets as many points as he can, but if he doesn't make the team, Blaze doesn't get his points, correct, GT? Because that's the whole reason why they're doing this so early. You can't just have somebody out there racking up points and it's all under Team USA. Like, I have to go rack up my own points. Grant has to rack up his own points. Mark has to rack up. Here's a perfect example. There's 3 of us. Let's say we're all in the same weight class and we're all Olympic level good. Only one of us is going to get the spot. And if, say it's Grant, he doesn't get my points. So that's a very, very important thing to understand that is new.
That's what I was asking earlier, David, was whether or not the country got the points on the qualification or just the individual.
Just the individual.
Okay.
And so we're going to get very familiar with UWW ranking points. And what's going to be interesting that they have not discussed is what happens if there's a tie for the 3rd spot. Because mathematically, that for sure could happen. If there's 4 tournaments and Grant places 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and I place 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 1st, and they're all worth the same amount of points, the idea that we could have the same number of points is easily fathomable. And if it's for the last spot, I mean, if it's for 1st and 2nd, who cares? Honestly, you're in. But if it's for 3rd and 4th, that's the line in the sand.
Yeah. Good point.
And so then I don't know that criteria. I don't know if was it head to head? Is it in the events they were both in, who placed ahead of who? I mean, we're all pretty smart guys. I think we can figure out something that's reasonable, but that doesn't mean that would be what they use. But that's coming. Trust me, that's coming. And, that's where they blind draw these tournaments. And like, if GT beats me and then Mark beats GT and I'm out because of how repechage works, It's tough, and it's going to be one more thing these college coaches have to focus on because these athletes, like one of the things we haven't even discussed, and we're almost at an hour, is let's pick Bo Bassett. Let's say he makes the team, and let's say he takes 5th at Worlds. Let's say he takes 3rd at Worlds, and then he wins he wins the 2 out of 3. And makes the team again. And then in 27, he doesn't medal. Again, all of this is a semi-realistic scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now if he wants to make the Olympic team, he has to go to these qualification tournaments. Okay. These ranking series tournaments, excuse me. Let me use it the right term. The ranking series where you get qualification points or ranking points. I'll just keep using ranking. Ranking tournaments for ranking points in the ranking series. Well, now Tony Roby and company and Bo have to balance that out with training for Virginia Tech, who's paying him. Like, it's going to get super complex for these kids that still have college eligibility. Like the Luke Lildow versus Spencer Lee is night and day, and that's a perfect one. Or Real Woods versus Bo, because again, we don't even know who's on the team yet there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is going to get massively complex. Like, and I think USA Wrestling understands that, but it's like they had to get this out there. I think people are like, well, did they not like Final X? And I don't think that's it. I think from a marketing standpoint, Final X is awesome because, it's Mark against GT, and we've known that for 7 weeks, and people can do podcast and breakdown, and can Grant get to his lefty swing single, and can Mark get to his righty underhook, and, all these sort of things, right? And there's no storylines here, right? Like, hey, Grant placed at the 2026 Worlds, and he's sitting till the 2 out of 3 final. And we'll see who he wrestles. And there might be 1 day notice. There might be 5 hours notice. We're going to have to wait to see the schedule. I'm guessing it's going to be a day, if I had to guess, because they would wrestle all the finals. The tournament ends on Saturday. The process ends on Saturday. Like, I would guess the finals of the mini tournament are on Friday night. And then on Saturday is the 2 out of 3s, because you got to give these guys time. And GT, I guess, what isn't said here, but it's implied, is if there's a weight with no returning medalist, the top 2 guys just wrestle 2 out of 3, right?
I think it's, whoever wins or whoever makes the finals of the mini tournament doesn't wrestle. There's your best 2 out of 3 right there.
Right. So if Spencer Lee doesn't place at Worlds and him and Luke, make the finals of the tournament, they don't wrestle the final. They're the 2 out of 3. And they haven't said this either, but historically, if you made the world team in 26, so the 6 guys we mentioned earlier, if they don't place, they're usually the number 1 seed in the tournament the next year. That's been the case, at least in the recent history. Okay. Anything else there's a couple last things I need to say. Anything else on this subject before we button it up? Mark?
Does anybody think that the 4 matches that have not been wrestled yet in Final X, I think it's 4, am I mistaken, or is it 3? 4 matches have anything to do with these new rule changes coming up, because people aren't happy about this long delay, and now we got Kennedy Blaze, who I think is one of our greatest wrestlers, in women's wrestling right now, is going to wrestle in RAF before she even wrestles in Final X, and she sat out because of injury. So, I mean, I'm just wondering, do you guys think any of that has to do with them making some changes?
I don't think so. I think it's just underneath the current guidelines, this is a way that they could do it. And I think, once again, getting our world team selected has normally occurred a little earlier, but I think underneath this is that, some of those dates were maybe discussed internally, but I don't think it has anything to do with what the process is right now.
Okay.
my 2 cents worth is I agree with GT. I also think, and I didn't read through this part of it, I can, but that it does. Let me pull this up real quick. It's okay. Hold on. This is the Greco one. The men's freestyle one. Delayed wrestle-offs. Okay, so Mark, I think the answer to your question is they have changed the process. Delayed wrestle-offs must be concluded by July 31st. So they changed that because the Bassett Woods match I heard is in September.
I think everything is in September, I believe.
Okay. Let's just put it this way. Whenever it is, if it's tomorrow and I don't know about it, it's still after July 31st.
Yeah.
And so next year it won't be this late. So let's put it this way. I don't think the whole process that we just talked about has anything to do with that. But this add-on on the back does have something to do with that. And your part about RAF and somebody wrestling in that before the other thing is really interesting. And I don't think this is intentional or unintentional, but I think there's going to be less people wrestling in RAF that are Olympic level good next year because you have to have periodization. You have to have training cycles. You can't have a Sajalayev where you get injured wrestling in a match that frankly means nothing. I mean, it means money, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And so you can't have that if you're an American. I mean, I can't speak for any other country, but here, if you can't do that and then you can't make the team now. So I need to give a big shout out to Todd Blank and Sergio. I'm going to be at Huntington Beach this Saturday doing the play-by-play for the Beach Nationals. It's a huge event. It's super cool. It's literally right on the pier. It's going to be awesome. And so they're streaming it. I think it's on Flow, but I'm not for sure. I just know I'm doing the play-by-play. And it's a really cool entry level to the sport. I was at the Midwest Beach Nationals a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of people that haven't wrestled do it. It's shorter periods are, it's 1 3-minute period, first 1 to 3 wins, last point win, super easy to understand. There's a push for this Beach Nationals or beach wrestling rather as an Olympic sport because it's men and women. You don't need a big venue. Wherever you played volleyball, you just pull the stakes out, or, you do it before they put the stakes in, before or after volleyball at an Olympic venue. They'd already have seating. Like I said, that it's fast, it's photogenic. There's really cool throws and things like that. And you can understand beach wrestling scoring so much more quickly than folk style, freestyle, or Greco. I'm not saying it's a better sport. I'm just saying it's easier to understand for somebody that's never done it. So I want to thank those guys for giving me the opportunity to do that. And it'll be on Saturday in Huntington Beach. So I think that's it. I appreciate and shout out to Joe Russell for helping me understand it and hopefully convey a level of understanding. I mean, I guess I'll just say this. A 60-second summary is this. They have to go sooner because the ranking series matters. The qualification process for the Olympics has changed. So America and every other country has to react accordingly. There is still gray area on the non-Olympic weight classes, TBD. And to Mark's last point, final wrestle-offs for this will happen a lot sooner than they will this year. I think those are the main bullet points. There's a bunch of specificity within there, but for people to, if they go talk to their buddies at happy hour about it, to at least understand that part. Fair? Did I miss anything?
Nope.
And keep an eye on those 6 weights in men's, women's, and Greco because they sit in the catbird seat literally if they're able to medal. And it's huge money for these RTCs and everything else and helps with recruiting. So, Spencer Lee, Woods or Bassett, JG, Dake, Snyder, Wyatt. Those are the 6 guys on the men's side. We'll talk about the women's side later and all that stuff. When we get to the World Championship previews, we'll talk about those 6 weights specifically. So, all right. For Grant, for Mark, I'm David. Thank you guys for watching and listening.